Hold on, let's just take a moment and recognize how long it's been.
We're back.
Okay, let's go.
When was the season ending? When was Acolyte? When did we last talk?
Our viral video of the season finale discussion.
July 16th. It is now 5 months later.
Wow.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Dads of Dagobah, where Sean and I get into the nitty-gritty about all your favorite Disney Plus shows, Star Wars themed. We don't do anything else. Not even it has to be live action. Live action Star Wars shows, and sometimes movie, but when was the last time they released a movie? 5 years ago.
2019. And I still haven't watched Bad Batch.
And, and when's the next movie coming out? Who knows?
Never.
Well, we're coming to you because a new show just dropped on Disney Plus. This show is called Skeleton Crew. And Sean has been teasing me for the past 3 days because we're filming on Friday and it dropped on Monday. But he has some hot takes. But first, Sean, before we get to your spicy takes, what's the word of the day today for you?
I've been actually thinking a lot about this, and you're right. I for some reason I thought it was dropping Tuesday. So I did not even realize it. On Tuesday I texted you like, hold on, the internet's telling me that this dropped yesterday. I did not know that this happened. But anyway, I had a couple different words of the week that I was bouncing around, but the one I'm gonna go with is, and this might be part of the hot take. Hesitant.
Huh?
Hesitant. I'll explain when we dive into this. What is your word of the week?
I mean, mine is barrier, and we are breaking through the barrier.
Nice.
The Disney Plus Star Wars shows have been lacking since Andor. Mando season 3. Since Andor, we've had Mando season 3. We've had Obi-Wan Kenobi. Did we have Book of Boba Fett, or was that before? And I think that was before Andor.
That was before Andor.
So then Acolyte. Those 3 shows.
And Ahsoka.
Oh, I forget about Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Okay. Ahsoka was good at the end for me.
This is what I'll say about that. So Mando season 3 was the weakest season of the 3 seasons of Mando.
By far.
I wouldn't say it was bad though. But yeah, didn't capture the magic of the first 2 seasons. Obi-Wan had some great highs, some great moments, and also some Leia's being chased through Alderaan moments that were just ridiculous.
Yep, totally agree.
So it was kind of, in that sense, it was like really hard to gauge. Sometimes I was super into it and thought it was amazing, and other times I'm like, this show sucks. Ahsoka was a slow burn. I remember my whole perception of that when we were going through those reviews was the first 75% of the show, I felt like Ahsoka, the character, was acting really weird and boring and like grumpy. I'm like, what's happening?
About any of this?
Yeah, I'm like, what's happening? So yeah, it picked up at the end though. And then obviously Acolyte was just, I don't even know.
Rough from the get-go.
Derailed almost immediately and just went off the rails. Like, what's happening?
And got canceled.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, what are the good Star Wars Disney Plus shows? Mando season 1 and 2 and Andor? What other shows are there?
Not Book of Boba Fett. That's it, really.
Yeah.
And Skeleton
Are we forgetting another one pre-Andor? I don't think we are. Mando season 1 and 2 was good. Andor is possibly the best thing they've done in Star Wars since the original trilogy.
Since they bought the franchise.
Yes. Yes. Um,
Anyway, wow, did I just say that? Above Last Jedi? No, Andor. Oh man, is Andor better than Last Jedi? That's
there's no question. Of course it is.
anyway, breaking through barriers here. I love the show has got me excited, but it seems like okay, how about I just go with my take on the show before
Yeah.
we get to your
Yeah.
take?
Give me your take.
I very much enjoyed this show. I thought characters are fun. I love all the kids. I think each one of them is brings something new and is exciting, and their play off each other is really fun. Of course, they're kids, and so the acting seems a bit not like terrible, but just like, oh, okay, they're children. Um, has a good mystery that I think I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Hopefully, it's not like super stupid where it's like time travel, like the planet is behind time or something. Um, maybe it's just, but then it's like, why is it behind a barrier? The pirates, that seems fun. I mean, it just seems like what Acolyte was trying to do, this is doing better, where it's introducing new characters in a kind of a new space of Star Wars without any preconceived notions of people. Acolyte tried that, didn't work. This is trying to, it's more fits into the timeline, this show, but you wouldn't know it because there's not a whole lot of like Stormtrooper, First Order or any of that sort of stuff, right? Even New Republic yet. So they're doing great.
Yeah. Yeah. The reason I say hesitant is not because I don't think the show is good, but it's almost like as I was watching the first two episodes, and this is maybe more a referendum on all these shows that we just talked about, I found myself skeptical and not believing or not allowing myself to enjoy it because I had this inner monologue going of like, they're not going to be able to pull this off. They're not going to close the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I liked so much of what I was watching, and yet I was like, is this just going to be fool's gold here? Is this just going to be like that? Because you could argue in a lot of the previous shows, there were things in the beginning episodes that had us intrigued. Book of Boba Fett is a perfect example
Oh my gosh, yes. Tell me about
of
it.
like the first 1 and 2 episodes were like, okay, okay. And just they took a nosedive right after that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, please don't take a nosedive on this because this seems to have the most potential since Andor to actually be a new kind of classic show, which is surprising because I had super high hopes for Obi-Wan. I had super high hopes for Ahsoka. I had crazy high hopes for the Acolyte because I felt like we were getting like an original story with original characters. So I'll tell you what I liked about Skeleton Crew episode 1 and 2. I heard someone, I did not come up with this. I heard this, another person's review, and I completely agree with it. I felt like you could tell that they've unlocked this idea of they weren't trying to make a Star Wars show. They're making a good show set in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, I can see
It's
that.
like
Totally.
it's a good story and it just happens to be in Star Wars. Whereas a bunch of the other shows seems like they lean so heavy into just trying to do Acolyte kind of did this,
We
like
got to do Star Wars, and now we got to make
cool
it good.
Star Wars stuff, but the actual story or the narrative was weak.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about Acolyte. It's like you can do cool lightsaber stuff and they had cool choreography and all that, but like the story doesn't make sense at all. um, so I
And the
like that about
acting and the acting in the Acolyte was so flat.
yeah. It's interesting that you said that you thought the acting for the kids was kind of that they
Just
were
in the
just
sense
kids.
of when compared to the adults,
Yeah.
you could tell. But then, like when it was just the kids, it was cute. It was like
Yeah.
season one of Stranger Things.
Yeah. So yeah, so I like that. I thought it was super interesting. I've heard so many people obviously compare it to Stranger Things, The Goonies, the kind of the 80s era, Steven Spielberg, Amblin Entertainment, E.T., like a Spielberg type production of these like kids in the 80s. And that also makes me a little hesitant too, because I'm like, I don't like when people compare things to Stranger Things. That's just a pet peeve of mine anyway, because I feel like Stranger Things is so good that you immediately, I'm like, this isn't Stranger Things.
The only way it's Stranger Things is the main cast is young kids, and the
Right.
adults play supporting roles.
Yeah.
That's
But
all I mean by it.
but
And there's mystery, but
Stranger Things from like the get-go was like everything about it was just to use the vernacular of the youths of America, it was just like a vibe. It was the
yeah, oh yeah,
music, it
totally.
was the suspense, it was the acting, it was the nostalgia. I don't think that Skeleton Crew is like from the get-go out of the gate was like that for me, but it's still very, very good. And I liked seeing things like I don't think we've ever seen a suburb in Star Wars. I'm like, have we ever seen a neighborhood that looks like futuristic suburbs of America, with sidewalks and a road and kids catching the bus to school?
And playing with action figures and playing Jedi lightsaber fights and
Yeah.
riding
But I feel like in
bicycles.
that first episode, it was interesting to me because it immediately the pre-episode text made this sound like it's after the fall of the Empire and the New
Yes,
Republic is
correct.
ruling. Um, but then he has all this media about Jedi and Sith, and so I'm like, I wonder if that is playing into what you were talking about, how they're like sheltered and maybe don't really know what's going on in the rest of the galaxy.
Well, when that proctor came and talked to the students, she called it the Republic and not
Yeah,
the New Republic. And
right.
people caught that and said, "Oh, they're still in the Republic days."
And then in the second episode, when he gave the credits over, they were saying these are mint condition Old Republic
Mm-hmm.
credits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so anyway, so I really like it. I think I'm very optimistic. I think the mystery of their planet and Ad-Atten and how they get back and why is it a mythical, planet of eternal treasure or whatever they called it. I loved the pirate vibe of the second episode
Oh
of
yeah.
like they're in this pirate
What's
spaceport.
that scene in Pirates of the Caribbean where they go to
Tortuga.
Tortuga? Yeah. Uh-huh. It's the
That's
same
exactly what it was
same
like.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought all that was great. I loved SM33.
It's me?
Shout out to my man Smee. I thought he was a great character, and I'm like, did we already lose him as a character?
No, no. There's no
They're
way.
they're gonna repair him.
Yeah.
But things that make me hesitant that I didn't like that I'm like, is Disney up to their old tricks with this? And I know this is maybe gonna sound trivial, but I just have a chip on my shoulder about it. I am bothered that the second episode was only like 25 minutes long.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I'm
100%
like,
agree. The the time on these shows needs to be so much longer.
well, it's
First
like
one
the
was
first
43
episode was
minutes.
almost double the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, Disney Plus and these Disney shows are the only shows that I've ever watched that they just have no pattern to how long the episodes are. Stranger Things kind of got like that in like the later seasons where you have like an episode that's like 2.5 hours long or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, they didn't start out that way. It's like
Uh-huh.
every Disney Plus Star Wars show we watch, it's 50 minutes, 33 minutes, 47 minutes, 24 minutes, 32 minutes. It's like, what is happening right now?
Hmm.
Like, can you guys not figure out how to standardize making an episode of television?
When it's just like there's not more to the story we can flesh out here. There's not more
Right.
we can do and see here on this. I mean,
Because as much as I loved the second episode, I felt like
it
that
was
wasn't
rushed.
enough.
Yeah, it was rushed.
Yeah. I'm like, that wasn't enough. And if you have more episodes like that, then I feel like the story's not going to be able to breathe in a way that we're going to get a satisfying build up or narrative to what's happening with this mystery. And so I'm like, that's why I'm a little bit nervous of, are we going to get a couple more of these short episodes where they're not connecting the dots as well as they should be, and then we're going to be like, it's a good concept, but they're not executing it well.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't know. Streaming has certainly changed the business,
yeah,
and it's all about how much money can we save on production and post production. I'm sure they have some cost per minute factor they're going based on, and retention, watch minutes, and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah.
I don't know.
I like the kids. I like their characters. I think we're supposed to be a little bit of this, but I'm a little bit annoyed by Wim. What's his name?
Whim. Uh-huh.
Wim. There's always in every show where there's like a cast of kids, there's one kid that I'm super annoyed by. Of like, you're not acting like a normal child would act.
I thought the same way. I'm like, it's true that some kids don't have a lot of fear, but you're just making every bad choice possible,
Yes.
which is like
Or like
most kids don't do that.
they've jumped into hyperspace and they're all trying to figure out how to go home. Like most kids would be like freaking out, like, how do we get home? And he's in the captain's lounge,
Putting on the
captain's room.
captain's, yeah,
Like, go home. We just got here. Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
someone slap him in the face. Like, what do you mean we just got here? Got where? Where are you going to go? Like, you don't have any resources. I guess he had his money. But I'm like, you don't have any resources. You don't know where you're going. You have zero life skills. You're going to die. It's gonna be a bad situation wherever you go.
Yeah.
Your number one priority should be getting home. And I
One
guess I
thing,
get it a little bit because they gotta have this narrative of like these kids going on an adventure, but I'm like, no, my kids would be curled up in the fetal position crying.
did you know Neil is played two different ways? One is a child actor on set with like a motion capture headpiece on, and then on other shots they bring in a puppeteer, an animatronic puppeteer that can do facial movements, and they do two different takes with them. I thought that was
Really?
incredible. Yeah. So sometimes they match the performance of Neil, the blue elephant, who is not what's his name?
Max Rebo?
Max Rebo species, by the way, just so everyone knows. Different species.
Because Neil
But
has arms.
Neil has arms. Max Rebo does not. He's playing the piano with his feet. Anyway, yeah, it's cool. He's a child actor with this kind of thing on in front, capturing his face, so that they could put it onto, computer generated face if needed, or they have a puppet. I thought he's a great sidekick. It's just like, oh, if you don't pass your test, then I'll fail too, so that we can stay together another year. And then Wim's like, what about what's her face? Oh yeah.
Yeah. I loved that scene where he was like, I like her, and he's like, have you never even talked to her? He's like, I'm building up to it. It's so true. It's so indicative of like that age when you're like, you have
Reminds me
these
of me. Yep.
crushes based on nothing, just zero foundation, and you're like, I guess we're in a relationship.
It looks like we're in a relationship. What do you think about the girls we have here? Do you know their names?
Fern and KB.
Yeah, Fern and KB. So Fern obviously is kind of the Sarah, Land Before Time. It's kind of the Sarah of the group. And KB is the sidekick to her, who's I don't know what is the visor thing? Is it
Yeah, because
just
she flips it up every once in a while.
yeah?
So I'm like, why do you need it? At first, I thought she was maybe like an android type. Do we
Uh-huh.
have androids in Star Wars,
We
like
have
humans?
we have those people in Book of Boba Fett who were implanting stuff,
Oh
remember?
yeah, that's right. That's right.
But hers just but she'd like plug into the computer and stuff. I'm like, is she just like the R2 droid kind of person who can like splice into things? I don't know, but interesting.
Yeah, I like the girls. Sometimes at first I thought when we first started kind of the interactions and they find the ship and they're kind of the girls are kind of bossing the boys around. Sorry, my first thought was I don't know, is this tired of the trope of the girls being smarter and better and putting the boys down because the boys are dumb and stupid and whatever?
Hmm.
Like when are I kind of like to see a Whim or Neil or whatever also be competent and also have some intelligence and moxie and get stuff done too sometimes. But as it progressed, I wasn't like put off by it. I'm not mad that the girls are the way they are. But
Yeah,
sometimes that trope I feel like is a little played out where I'm like, it always seems like that's what it is. And maybe some of our female viewers might feel the opposite, that we don't get enough of the strong female representation, and that's fine too. And that's kind of a trope, that's kind of a homage to Star Wars anyway, because Leia was always kind of the leader and Han and Luke were just kind of stumbling and bumbling around and getting
yeah,
lucky
they
at
were the
stuff.
ones
And Leia
firing at the
was,
door in the trash compactor, and she's like, "Are you idiots?"
yeah, Leia was the one that was like actually had a plan. So
Yeah,
maybe, yeah, that's a good, maybe I just talked myself out of that. But sometimes that was my initial thought of, I'd like to not keep seeing that trope. And why can't all the kids all be good at stuff?
yeah. I
Like,
mean, Wim is good at exploration,
yeah.
head in the clouds, head in the not even the stars because they don't even know what stars are. Head in the clouds, dreaming of brighter. I mean, he's kind of like Ray in that way, right? Where, but at least but then Ray was competent in flying and with the lightsaber and could use the Force Jedi mind trick immediately. So Wim was not.
Well, it's I also was fascinated by their whole like society on Ad Atten before in episode 1 where they're taking a test to see what career they're gonna do. And
Hmm.
it's like you're living on kind of this utopia planet, but they maybe don't really know it. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of autonomy to be able to follow your dreams or do what you want to do. Everybody lives in the exact same house. It's like very.
I
Did you
didn't
notice
notice
that?
that.
I feel like all the houses were identical.
Oh, interesting. I didn't catch that, but
Because when Neil goes into his house and we don't get a shot of inside the house, but you can see through the window, it's like the exact same layout of what Wim's house was with his dad.
was that just a sense of that's what suburbia is? I mean, it's just all cookie cutter houses just plopped right down.
Yeah, yeah. So
Did you
maybe
notice
it's
the
not.
milk is not green or blue? It's gray.
It's gray.
So it's like, oh, they don't even have banthas or those crate creatures.
And I feel like it looked like it was the consistency of either water or like skim milk. I'm like, this is just
Very-
like dirty gray water they're pouring on their cornflakes. But but yeah, so it that was interesting to me of like they're all just like analysts or what's the power at B on at Atten and why is it necessary for this society to just be
yeah, that's
churning
interesting
out these analysts?
because I mean, the mother talks about, or the proctor, mother slash proctor, she's like, for the Republic. I'm like, but you guys obviously aren't in contact with the Republic because there is no the Republic anymore. It's now the New Republic. And
Yeah.
then they have the old currency. And that what is the dad doing? He's so busy at work all the time. He's, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, so I felt like again they was I at the end of episode 1 as the starship is rising out of the dirt and the kids are and the dad's waving and they fly off. Am I supposed to feel like, oh no, like what am I supposed to feel about Wim and his dad's relationship? Am I supposed to feel like it's dysfunctional? Am I supposed to feel bad for Wim about it? Am I supposed to feel like they need to repair something, or is it just like, no, that's just kind of, why isn't there a mom? Did the mom die? Like, what's the emotional baggage in this relationship other than the dad's a workaholic, or is he being forced to work that much?
Yeah, I think I would take it as the single parent who's trying their best to keep life as normal as possible,
Yeah.
but they're just at their wits' end with all the responsibilities they have to do, and the kid is getting neglected. Not the parent's fault, just the fact of life, because the parent
Yeah.
has so many other duties now. They're doing two roles now.
But as we said, when they're in the starship, Wim doesn't seem to miss his dad and doesn't
Yeah.
seem like, hey, I need to get home.
Well, because his dad's not home ever.
Yeah,
He
sure.
hands him lunch money. I love the scene where he pulls out the credit and gives it to the little creature, and the creature like looks at it and just goes yoo and scurries off. I'm like, oh, that's the creature work. I thought was fantastic too. There's some. Oh, we didn't even talk about the opening scene with like the
Oh
pirate
yeah,
ship attacking the.
the Tantive
Totally.
Four.
It's I mean such a one for one of the episode 4. Tentative 4, where they board the ship and this is a consular ship, and this almost the same dialogue, but
Yeah,
just fantastic creature work and cool bad guys, and obviously that guy who's masked is Jude Law, right? I mean,
right.
yeah,
That was it. Before he even spoke. I thought he's got the mask on. That's got to be Jude Law.
yeah,
And then I feel like they tried to distort the voice a little bit, but you could tell it was him.
yeah. What do you
But
think about?
Dogman, Lieutenant Second in Command guy. Then we see him in episode 2 on this pirate spaceport.
He's now the leader.
He's now the leader. He throws the kids into the brig. Which, what was the plan before the girls, mouthed off to him?
I don't know.
Because he was just walking away and he's like, oh, wait, you just now mouthed off to me. You're a little bit feisty. I like that. Throw him in the brig.
Throw him in the break.
What
I
were
was
you
going
going
to
to do
let you guys
before that?
go.
But let's talk for just a second about Jude Law and that character in the end of episode 2,
Yeah, his name is
Captain Silvo, before he was mutiny.
Jod Nawood. Did we
Okay.
learn that name, Jod? I guess Jod is what they're calling him.
Jod. I think, are we, is the assumption here that he doesn't actually use the Force? That was some sort of trick he did, or did he actually use the Force?
My assumption is he is a Force using person. Not Jedi, not Sith, just has Force powers, never got sent off to school, maybe was hidden away as a child, but like not Jedi, also not Sith, but has used his Force powers in a bad way, piratey way.
Then why did he wait to get that key until the kids showed up in the cell?
Because I think he's an opportunist. He waits for an opportunity to present. I mean, if he just like got the key and let himself out, it'd be. I don't. I mean, we'll have to see episode 3 to see
Yeah.
what his plan is.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
want to
So
play your hand.
do you think that Jude Law's character is going to be ultimately be a good guy?
Yes,
Like he maybe is going to at first be wanting to take advantage of the kids to find Ad-Atten and the treasure there, but then he ends up like growing to love the kids or something.
I think that's the whole show right there. Yep. I mean, we've seen in the trailers that there is a big treasure that they find, and yeah, I think exactly that. He's going to double cross the kids, and then right at the moment where he can win back the favor of his pirate buddies, he sees, no, I'm going to stay with these kids and get them home and help solve this mystery. Yeah, that's the whole show right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think? Is he a Jedi? What do you think he is? Or did
For,
I?
for some reason, and I don't know if I saw this in like a trailer or something. I thought that we already knew that like that was some sort of parlor trick.
Well, we had the parlor trick in, what was it, Kenobi? When he's on that planet, he talks to
Yeah,
whatever that one guy is. He's kind of like, oh, it's just tricks, but I can.
right.
And I felt like we never got a good answer about what the trick actually was. Was it string or something or what? I don't know. But anyway, that guy did not have the force. I think
Right.
Jude Law does have the force. I don't know. Is that possible to be a force user without choosing Jedi Sith?
I guess it is. Yeah, I think that's plausible. Okay. Um, but yeah, I think that he'll be kind of like a Han Solo type character where his background is kind of has a criminal background, but he has a good heart and
Yeah,
he'll end up making the good choices.
I love it. So next show is what? December 10th. So it's Tuesday. And Tuesdays from here on out, the 10th, 17th, 24th, 31st, 7th, 14th. 8 episodes.
Which is two more than the original, Disney Plus that was doing the 6 episode series for a long time. I guess wasn't Mando 8 episodes? I don't remember. But okay. Yeah, like I said, I hope that as much as this sounds like it shouldn't be a big deal, I do think that it does contribute to the experience. I hope that the episodes start to become a consistent time length
Yeah, that's
duration.
not going to happen. We've been saying that for years, and
Yeah.
what's the incentive for them to do that?
Yeah. Um, but I think they've laid some great groundwork. I feel like it's nice to see that on social media, at least it seems like most of the feedback is very positive. Um, very rarely, I feel like in the last 10 years has the Star Wars fandom been kind of had a consensus on being positive about projects.
Oh my gosh, remember that song from The Acolyte? The power of one, the power of two, the power of many. Oh my gosh, we should have known right then and there to turn it off.
That
Oh my
show was
gosh.
so I didn't understand any of the choices happening in that show. But it had like that's the thing. I'm such a sucker for the Star Wars stuff that even the worst shows, there are things where I'm like, that was kind of cool.
It had Plagueis. It had Plagueis.
Yeah.
Plagueis was there.
I liked Master Soul. I thought that was a cool character. Um, I thought that like the hand-to-hand combat in the first couple episodes, I'm like, this is good. All right.
Yeah.
But then you guys didn't actually think of any story elements that actually would make sense. Okay, sounds good.
Oh, you cannot. Yeah. Oh, and now she's seeing him butt naked, and she's falling in love with him. What?
Oh,
What?
Book of Boba Fett, you have twin Hutts, and they're going to be like the main villains, and they're going to be like
We talk about
on
those huts every episode. How mad we are about that.
that. I don't. I know we speak in a lot of hyperbole, or at least I'll speak for myself that I do a lot of exaggeration, a lot of hyperbole. But I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that that might be the single greatest like character disappointment I've ever experienced with Star Wars that I'm like, that was such a cool, and they did nothing.
No, they didn't do anything with it. Well, gotta get back to the Bacta.
They had 5 lines, and then the next episode they're like, we told the whoever they can have the planet. We're gonna leave. Like, why'd you even show up? You
We
can
were
have
so
Black Chrysanthemum.
we were so excited when we saw those. We got off the rails talking about what the future of that show was going to be, and it. Meh.
They tried to like salvage it in the last episode with like him riding a raincore, and it's like it's too late. It's too late.
Yeah.
We've already had the Vespa chase.
Oh, speaking of that Vespa chase, how terrible that was. In this one with the bikes in the forest, I was like, oh, this looks good. Like they actually know how to use a fan and blow children's hair when they're riding this thing. Like,
Yeah,
oh, okay, this looks like the thing is moving, as
yeah.
opposed to, eh.
Riddle me this too. When the dad is like coming back out of the forest and those security droids come out there, and
Uh-huh.
I'm like, you can't walk through a forest on this planet? This is a restricted area. And he's like freaking out, like, the kids, they just flew away. We got to go after them. I feel like they're going to take him to some like detention facility and like wipe his memory or something.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how, because obviously it's going to be a dual storyline, kind of like Andor, where he had like the Coruscant storyline and then kind of the Andor storyline going on at the same time. So like the parents, I feel like are going to be figuring out this cool mystery of the planet, and the kids are just going to try and be getting back. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited to see what they do more with the parents.
Yeah.
And do we get to meet Neil's parents? His siblings were pretty cute though. I was
Seriously.
watching some TV show. I was like, wow, this is my life. That's exactly. It's just like. Anyway, well, that's all we have for you. We are. What was the word you used again?
Hesitant.
Hesitant. You're hesitant. I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm ready for a good show because we know Andor is going to be fantastic. It has to
Yes.
be.
Oh, I'm so excited for Andor.
When's that coming out again? Did we? They told us, right?
It's the only thing that we can be excited about because it's almost
April
it
22nd.
it was almost comical, then it became comical, then it became just downright depressing. We've gone through the whole gambit of emotion based off of Lucasfilm announcing
Oh,
movies
mm.
and then canceling
Oh my
said
gosh.
movies.
Writers leaving, signing writers, and
They
then
have literally announced like more than 10 movies over the last 5
5 years.
years that they have since scrapped that they're not going to do anymore. And it's like, what is happening? This is craziness.
You would think. Wait, we do this every time, but it has been 5 months since we've done this. You would think that a tentpole Christmas time Star Wars movie would be the highest priority for them right now.
Yes. And it's like the Ryan Johnson trilogy, dead on arrival. The Taika Waititi movie, dead on arrival. Rogue Squadron, dead on arrival. Now we're going to do a
Benioff and Weiss.
Benioff and Weiss, not happening. We're doing the Ray movie, now not happening. Weren't we going to do this um
Old Republic.
epic like epic
Dawn
Dawn
of
of
the
the
Jedi.
Jedi
Yeah. Uh-huh.
biblical movie? What's happening with that? Mandalorian and Grogu, is that movie gonna happen? Are they? That probably is the only one that probably will happen because it's an established character set that they're like, we think we can
We can milk this
sell
for
this
what
one.
it's worth. Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like there's other ones in there too that we thought were gonna happen and haven't happened that they announce. Kevin Feige was gonna do one. Did you ever say
Oh
that one?
yeah. Uh-huh.
Kevin
Yeah.
Feige was gonna do it. That's not happening. So I'm like, all these movies they keep announcing we're gonna have a Star Wars movie. It's crazy that it's been 5 years.
And it's not even
And
like we have anything in production.
right,
Nothing's been
five
filmed.
5 years in an era where the same company, Disney, has other studios that are pumping out 2 to 3 movies a year.
Yeah.
And Lucasfilm, it's been 5 years. And it's not even been 5 years intentionally without a movie. It's been 5 years with 7 failed projects. That's crazy.
Yeah. And they see the success of like these movies that enter the zeitgeist, right? Movies like Barbie, movies like I feel like Wicked is one of them now,
Yes.
where they're like, "Oh, that's right." Like when Star Wars comes out, that is a cultural event.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about it. May not everyone will go see it, like Solo or Rogue One. Like those obviously were hurt in the numbers, but
Well, you know what I think Uncle Bob should do, and I'm talking about Bob Iger, he needs to head over to Lucasfilm, say, hey, Kathleen,
Had a good run.
even if you're going to stay, I'm not even, at this point, I'm like, they're not going to fire her, obviously. Like, whatever. It is what it is. But I'd be like, yo, Kathleen, look at what we just did with Moana 2. It was supposed to be a Disney Plus show, but we realized Disney Plus is not the bedrock of our strategy. Theatrical releases are the bedrock of the entertainment strategy. That's where the revenue is going to come from.
That's where the watch minutes are.
Yeah.
You have these shows, but the highest watched things are movies, not
Yes.
shows.
Yes.
Moana's like the most watched thing on Disney Plus.
Yes. The original one.
Yeah.
8 years after it was released, it was the number one streamed movie in the world. And Moana 2, this isn't a Moana 2 review, but clearly, if you knew that was supposed to be a series before and they kind of shoved it all together and retrofitted it to be a theatrical release, you can kind of tell that. But overall, my kids still loved it. They still want to go see Moana 2 again. Like, they loved Moana 2. And I'm just thinking to myself, if you even think of the Skeleton Crew movie, if that was a movie, if we like the entire Star Wars property has been exclusively on Disney Plus for the last 5 years.
Yep.
Just doing these one-off TV shows, most of them only having one season of just like a mini series, basically, of these little shows. And I don't think that has translated into like a massive surge of popularity for Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're bringing in a bunch of new fans with that. I think the diehard old fans are just going to stay and watch whatever. But I feel like based off of the first two episodes we've seen of the Skeleton Crew, if that was a movie called Skeleton Crew and it was a Star Wars film about these kids going on this mystery pirate adventure, that would be the type of movie that you're talking about that would enter into the zeitgeist. That would be one that would be like, this is like the Goonies. This is like, a movie like Barbie or Wicked or whatever it is, Inside Out 2, like all these massive movies that have happened in the last couple years that would become this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Skeleton Crew will be able to do that even as a TV show, but I don't know. I feel like I don't understand what the impediment is for Lucasfilm to put out a good movie.
I mean, it's not like Rise of Skywalker tanked, right? It was still hugely successful. It was an awful movie, but that doesn't stop Disney from pumping out Marvel movies, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that wasn't that good? We'll get you a new one. There'll be something else. And you'll go pay your $13, $15 to go sit in a seat and watch it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't want Star Wars to become a 2 movie a year thing, but I certainly would like it once every 2 years. That's what it was, right? Weren't the sequels 2 years apart, each one?
Yeah.
What was wrong with that?
Yeah. I thought that was great. Well, I think obviously we got super spoiled and now we're just rehashing things we've talked about so many times. We were super spoiled by the MCU and the Infinity War saga because that became this 24 film epic of all this interconnected narrative. And they were pumping out 2, sometimes 3 movies in a year that all connected into that story.
Yeah.
And so everyone went crazy thinking Star Wars has got to do 2 movies a year. And they obviously tried to do 1 movie a year where they were doing the sequel trilogy and in between they do Rogue One and then Solo and I thought they gave up on that too quickly. It was such a knee-jerk reaction to Solo and it not doing well at the box office compared to what a Star Wars movie usually would.
But you and I
Even
both
though
know Solo made money still. Solo turned a profit.
we talked about it when that was our very first YouTube video.
Yeah.
And I made the note in that video that Solo is the highest grossing Ron Howard film in his career. And he's made some classic movies.
Yeah.
So it's like, but it just didn't make what a Star Wars movie should make.
Well, it didn't deserve to make what a Star Wars movie should make.
But the point is that was every single MCU movie like amazing? No, there were clunkers in there, especially at the beginning.
Iron Man 2.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't understand why that derailed them in thinking if they wanted to move forward with pumping out movies, they could have easily bounced back. But I don't know. I think it was all wrapped up in while they were in that era, they were also working on Disney Plus. And so Disney Plus was going to be this new, novel, shiny thing that then Bob Iger left. Bob Chapek came in, and Chapek thought, we're going all in on Disney Plus, push everything to that platform. And it hasn't really worked. Now Bob Iger's back, and Iger's like, take it off Disney Plus. We're making it a movie. And he needs to do that with Star Wars.
I agree. Well, they should do a second season of Obi-Wan, but make it a film. There, I said it.
Make Solo 2 happen.
Rian Johnson trilogy. But Muppets. Okay, so
Muppets Knives Out by Rian Johnson.
Oh, no, that's a great idea. Okay. Hey, we got to wrap up this podcast. We've been going for an hour now.
Well, all of you out there still listening to this, tell us what you think of
Skeleton Crew. That's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. And also tell us how long into the show do you think it'll take for us to actually see Neil's mouth? When are we going to see his mouth? I want to see him eat something. I want to know how that works.
There you go. I like it. Okay. Well, let's wrap this up. Sean, until next time, this is the way.
All right. And let's get back to the Bacta.
See ya next week on the Dads of Dagobah.
Bye.